Hey, welcome back to the channel. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining, and hope you're all well. This one's been sitting in the queue for about a year, and I'm really excited to get to this. This is really nice Harman Kardon 730, and this is, I don't know, I can't remember where I got it, and I can't remember if it works. I can't remember anything about it, but we're going to go through and we're going to do everything we need to do to make this thing sing again. Beautiful 730. These are, I really love these 730s, the 430, the 330C. They're really clean lines. The brushed aluminum is just gorgeous. That's my opinion anyway. Probably other people don't care, but yeah, this is a really nice unit. It's filthy. The top is dirty. We can take care of that. It has a vinyl wrap. We can do something with that. And yeah, we got some scratches in the face here. There's big scratches here. A lot of scratches around the tuning knob, and other than that there's a few on top, but that's pretty much it. So we can clean those up as well. Yeah, this is the volume knob, has a good hook to it. We'll have to straighten that. The function tuner has a real mushy feel to it, like it's, I don't know, it's stiff or something. Like the grease is dried up. It's not the greatest. Balance, treble, and bass. Everything's good. Switches feel okay for, 40 plus year old switches. These switches are messed up big time. Speaker switch 1 and 2. I push that one in and it won't come back out. This one here won't even click in. So yeah, we got some issues with some switches. So we might end up replacing some of those. That one's working. Don't know if it works or not, so let's try it out. I got hooked up to the speakers. Don't know if the speaker switch is engaged or not, so let's turn this on. And no lights whatsoever. It is plugged in. Oh, this thing needs some serious help. Let's try the AM tuner. All my buttons are pushed in. Yeah, these are messed up. Tuner's working. That's a good sign. Meter's working. You can't see it though.
Encouragement for 2020 and forget the amount. Talks aimed at salvaging a sandwich.
FM tuner's working. It's kind of crunchy, and that's the sign of a dirty tuning capacitor when it crunches when you tune it.
Question. Put them on a path to recovery.
Oh, and that's where it stops. Looks like oh, maybe that's normal. I'm not getting any stereo. Let me try an antenna. Okay. I'm not getting any stereo indication here. Maybe the light's burned out. So let me pause the camera and I'll see if I can hear stereo separation. Okay, I think there's stereo separation there. If it is, it's so weak you can barely hear it. I can't really tell between the mono and the stereos, so it probably needs a lot of help. It needs, I don't know if the FM tuner is working to its maximum potential here, so it looks like we got a lot of work on our hands here. It doesn't sound bad. Like the amplifier sounds pretty good, considering all the scratchy knobs and all the dirty switches and everything like that. But we're going to go through this and make sure it's 100%. So let's have a look inside. Oh wow, there's a lot of smoke. Is that smoke or just dust? I don't think it's smoke, it's dust from just operation, the heat dust. So yeah, it's seen a lot of hours. And look at this beauty. I can't zoom out far enough here. Maybe I can put this forward more. So it's very very nice design. It's a lot like the A402. This amplifier actually is identical to the one in the A402. The power supply, the transformers, everything's identical, except this has a tuner in it, and the A402 is just an integrated amp. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Looks like somebody's had the transistors out. 2 ST388, 2 SB 541s. The heatsink compound's quite a mess, so I don't know, that's maybe what I'm thinking. It's been apart once. Don't know. Maybe not. Looks all original. It's very dirty. Very, very dirty. Look at the filth back here. This is the phono amp equalizer, I believe. Tuning block and encapsulated in a shield. Input board back here. The tuner itself looks like it has a couple of integrated circuits in the IF. That's what that is. I'm pretty sure that is FMIF. I think they have little amplifiers. Instead of a transistor stage, it's just an amplifier or a chip. Got a relay here. I don't know what that's for. 9-volt relay. It's double pole, single throw. It looks like a reed relay. Double reed relay. That must be a muting switch of some kind. You can't see it now, but stuffed underneath is the tone control board, and we got a couple of switching boards here stacked. So everything looks good. Everything looks original. That's nice. Elna caps. Those are 4700 microfarad at 50 volts. And then the power amplifier board itself. Let's pull the bottom off. Alrighty then. Got a lot of dust on this. This really badly thick coating of dust. It's really thick. So everything down here, I was going to plug this mic before I start poking my fingers in. It's turned on and plugged in, and I'm here looking at it. So everything from this point down looks identical to the A402. Well, actually from this point down. We've got a sub power supply board here. We've got our input switching. It's very dusty. Caked with dust bunnies. There's a lot of dust. To the bottom of the tuner board, a little bit of shielding. It's our tone control board. Our volume, balance, bass, treble, switching, and a power switch, which has no incandescent bulb working. So we got a lot to do here, but everything looks complete, intact, and untouched, which is good. Just looking at this. This looks all factory. One thing I've noticed with these older Harman Kardons of this era is they don't have very good input noise rejection. They could actually benefit if we added a capacitor across the line, and that would knock down a lot of transient signals coming in through the power cord. I noticed on the 330C I get a lot of garbage coming in from the power line, and it comes in and affects the audio quality. So I want to add a capacitor on this and see if that silences that noise and makes it a little bit better. Other than that, everything looks good. Looks like another power supply section down here. It's got some big filter caps. This might be just for the tone board itself and the filth. Yeah, we're gonna have to I'll go blow this out. Take it outside and blow it out. Here's a look at the faceplate. Look at the filth underneath the knobs. I don't think it's ever been cleaned. It's just disgusting. You see where I don't know, it's just bad, bad, bad. And you can, I don't know if you can see the scratches around the tuning knob. There's a good scratch here. You can see that one. And there's probably a few on the other side here. Let's have a look. There's one here. That'll probably buff out. But pretty dirty, pretty filthy. And we're going to clean this all up. That's the fun part. I have a sticker here, but it's been removed. Somebody took something and scratched the front trying to remove this sticker. Whatever. You can't have it all, I guess. I don't know why my camera shut off. I hope it's not a corrupt card. But let me get started with these caps. I'm going to replace these. We'll pull them out and test them, see if they're still good. They probably are, but I like upgrading these just because they add a lot to the dynamics of the amplifier. So I'll get started with that, and we'll give you an update in a bit. So probably some of you are wondering what I'm doing here. Maybe a lot of you already know that, but for those that don't, I'm probably going to do a full restoration on this thing. It's 45 years old. Judging from the date codes that I'm finding, it's built 76, and 45-year-old capacitors are, in my books, is it's time to go. So we're going to replace probably everything. There's not that many capacitors in this thing, so it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, and then the usual cleaning, and I'll probably end up replacing some of these switches, or most of them, if not all of them. And potentiometers will be all cleaned, of course. Mode switch, everything's going to be cleaned. My plan is to do a really thorough restoration on this. I'm going to be working on the front panel as well. So yeah, I want it to be a good looker as well as a good sounder. And yeah, we're going to carry on there. So I'm going to start changing caps here. See what we can do. Look at this. It got hit here. This is all pushed down. This is pushed down. I wonder what happened there. I don't know. It's a good thing these didn't short out here. There's some legs that are touching. So a little bit of risk there. And also some of these transistors here, these 2SC 1400s, these are on my naughty list. So we're going to probably replace some silicone in this thing too. See what we can do there. In the phono stage, there's probably all silicone needs to be replaced. Tone amp, we'll do some of that. And we'll see what we can do with that. As far as lighting goes, I'll probably end up putting an LED retrofit on this. This is an important one for me. You got to have that red button lit up. And these little incandescent lamps, they just don't last. So I'll put a LED here. The rest of it will get incandescent bulbs. I'll replace the ones in kind. I think it's got 5 here. I can see on the back. I'll replace all 5 of those and light that up again. Alright, time for a little bit of an update. I've been busy on this, doing quite a bit of work. Recapped the phono board, phono equalizer, and I also replaced all of the 2SC 1345 transistors with KSC 1845s. It's 10 transistors so far. I put 4 here, 6 in the tone board. Replaced all those transistors. They're all fine. The transistors are fine. They're working good. But I just want to see if there's any difference in the amp's operation. I don't think there will be, but just want to see how they work with those 1845s in there. Still need to clean the mode switch, the input mode switch. I don't expect any problems there. Like I said, I recapped this. I replaced 1 cap in the power supply board here. And the other 3, I pulled them out and tested them, and they're perfectly fine. So these are Alna caps, 16 volts, 2200 microfarad, and they test perfect. So I just put them back in. So I'm going to leave it like that. Haven't touched the tuner yet. I did pull off the dial face, and I found a big problem. There's a crack here. You can't see it on the camera. Maybe you can. I can show you. You see that from this screw hole down, there's a crack in the thing, and if you shine light through it, you can see light coming through. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I don't know if I'm going to glue it I'd have to snap the end off here and re-glue it on, because there's no way I can get glue on that. I don't know if I don't really want to glue it. That's the thing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on the way it is, and I'm just going to see how bad the light bleeds through this crack. If it's really noticeable, I have a few tricks up my sleeve. I could probably put sellotape on the back here and then just Sharpie in the black areas, because this is light supposed to transfer through it only on the printed areas. So everything else is going to be black. I could pretty much, yeah, I think a sellotape thing might work. That's if it's objectionable. But I'll get to that when I start a reassembly. I'll see how that looks. Have all the new bulbs in place. Just a matter of reinstalling this. New stereo lamp. Every lamp in this thing was burned out, including the stereo lamp. Haven't touched the power amplifier yet. I'm still waiting on my order of caps. I have a bunch of new caps coming, so I'm waiting for that. I don't want to start pulling things apart until the caps are here, and I can put things back together again as I go. Now, the main filter caps, I pulled them all out and tested them. They are getting weak. From 4,700 microfarads, they are measuring around 4,200. And so I want to replace all 4 of these, and I'm going to upgrade them to 10,000 microfarad. Another part I'm waiting for to come in the mail. Should be here tomorrow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, there is one thing I want to do here with the power switch I want to show you. Let me reposition the camera first. If you look at the mains wiring for this Harman Kardon, Harman Kardon did an excellent job on insulating. Look at all this has all been insulated with heat shrink. And that comes like that from the factory. That's all been insulated and covered. There's really no way to get electric shock by sticking your fingers in here. That's good. That's the way I like to see it. But then if you go over to the power switch, there's a couple of bare conductors here, and they are probably less than a 1/4 inch away from the headphone jack wiring. So I don't like that. So what I did is I made a little this is insulation sheet. I salvaged this out of a server, and this is a plastic sheeting that you use for insulation, and I sculptured a little shield, and I'm just going to insert that in there, and it's going to go in between the 2 components, and that'll shield that power switch and give it a little more protection. I don't expect it to completely cover it, but I just want to make sure that if anything ever happens, that the speaker output connection for that headphone jack won't touch the mains and create a shock condition. So everything else is good there. Another thing I did is I removed these 2 switchboards. They have to come out as a unit, and you have to remove the front frame assembly to get enough room to pull this out from behind. And then you have to separate the 2 boards, because there's wires running from one board to the other. There's 3 wires. There is a black, a green, and a purple that go through the boards, and they connect one board to the other. You have to remove that. You have to remove the 2 resistors going to the headphone jack, and you have to remove a couple of wires. These 2 wires here, the green and purple, they go to, these return back to the power amplifier. This is our speaker output line that goes to the speaker switches. I replaced both speaker switches. They're good now. The old ones were probably nothing really wrong with these switches, other than somebody sprayed in some cleaner or contact cleaner and completely flushed out all the lubrication from inside this, and it's completely dry inside, and that's why it doesn't want to work. But if I were to clean and lube these, they would probably be serviceable again. But I just took the route of replacing them. I didn't want to monkey around with these right now. And I cleaned the other 6 switches. These are all been cleaned and deoxed, and they're all functioning good. They have a good feel to them. Also, I replaced the 2 caps on this board and reassembled everything, put it back together. So that's it for now, and I'm going to keep going away. I'm waiting, like I said, I'm waiting for parts, and when parts get here, I'll finish off this power supply, I'll finish off the power amplifier, and then I can finish assembly. Then I can start on the tuner, and we can get this thing back in shape. All right, update time. So I just want to show you some of the stuff I've done here. Tone board in behind underneath here has been removed. Everything's been replaced as far as transistors, capacitors, and all the pots have been cleaned. All new lamps put in. Let's see here. For the power supply, 4 brand new capacitors, 10,000 microfarad. I replaced the 4700s because they were getting weak. They measured down around 4200 or so. Not really all that weak, but you know, they're getting up in age. It was 1976. They're 45-year-old capacitors, and they were starting to open up and go weak. So we got 4 brand new capacitors in there. Removed the mica washers, and it was a good thing too, because the heatsink compound was starting to really dry up and cake. It was half of it was powdery, and you can see I had a hard time cleaning it off. It's like it turned into almost like paint, and I couldn't get the transistor cleaned off properly. But so new sill pads on there, and all torqued down, so it's ready to go. Okay, power amplifier. New capacitors throughout. Cleaned the board. I did not touch any transistors on this because I'm not convinced that they're bad, so I'm just going to leave those in place, the 2SC 1400s. I did put 10-turn trim pots in for bias adjustment. I got rid of those cheap, flimsy trim pots they had, and I put in some 10-turn ones. So that's pretty much it for the power amplifier. New LED for the power button illumination, and I don't know if you can see that here. This is just an LED, and inside here there is a 10 microfarad chip capacitor, and that goes across the diode terminals. And there's also a diode in here in the heat shrink. So it's a little circuit built right into this heat shrink. So I got the diode, capacitor, and the LED. And then all I need to do is just decide on what value resistor I want to use for a dropping resistor, and I can do that after. I can see how bright I want that button to be, and I can adjust the resistor to suit. I don't know if you can see this on here, but right from where 106 is, let me point it out to you. This card is cracked from this screw hole down this way, and it goes about 3/4 of the way through the plastic, and you can barely see the crack. But I'm worried that once I illuminate this from behind with the pilot lamps, you're going to see light leaking through, so I might have to do something about that. I just assembled this just to see how it's going to turn out. If I don't get any light leaking through, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not going to glue it, and I'm not going to do anything. But if I get light leaking through that crack, I might have to cover it with cell tape, use a Sharpie on it just to black it out so that light can't come through that crack anymore. So here's the wafer switch, the input selector. This is the assembly I removed and took it out and cleaned it and deoxed all the contacts. Not really much more you can do with it. I had to remove this whole assembly, this shaft and everything, because this bearing up here was getting sticky with old grease, and it was really getting difficult to turn, so I had to take that all apart, clean it, and relubricate that, and relubricate this switch, and deox everything, so it's good now. Haven't found too many bad capacitors. I found 2 in the I found 1 here in the power supply, and I found 2 in the tone board, and I found 2 in the power amplifier next to the driver transistors. They were getting heat soaked, and they were damaged, so I replaced them. But I've been replacing all of the capacitors here except for these 3 so far. So for the front face, what I've done is I wet sanded this area. There was some scratches here around the tuning knob, and there was a big gouge here and a few little ones. I wet sanded this whole thing with 800 grit, and then I did 1000 grit, then I did 1500 grit, 2000 grit, 2500 grit, and then I followed up with polish, 2 times polish on this, and then a 2-time finishing polish. And It turned out pretty good. I still have a lot of haze, and I'm not happy with the amount of haze I'm getting even after the final polishes. I had the lettering all taped off so that it wouldn't get damaged, but still, I put a little effort into this and trying to make it look good. And I think it turned out a lot better than what it was before. I think before it had some good scratches on it, and they're quite noticeable, and they're gone now. Okay, here's a look at it back together again. It's looking gorgeous as usual. Power up. That's what she looks like. I might have this a little too bright. I had an 82 ohm resistor for the circuit. I probably should have put it in 100, but actually that's not too bad. It's fairly bright. I'd rather have it brighter than sometimes you get them too dim and you can't even see if they're on. So I think that's okay. I have the fuses pulled for the power supplies for the power amplifier, so it's dead right now. I'm just trying out the dial lights, and I was going through the tuner motions here. AM's working great. It was working great before we started. FM, not so much. I can tune in stations, but I'm not picking up stereo signals. I did see the light come on once, just once, but it's really struggling. Even with the stronger stations, it's not. So there's something going on with the tuner. What I'll do is I'll try a recap. I don't think it's going to fix the matter, but we'll see if it improves. Could be bad caps in here. I didn't find too many bad caps in the whole unit, maybe just a handful or a small amount, but I'm not expecting to find any more here. But we'll try it first. We'll try caps. There's only, what is there, maybe 10 caps in this thing, not even. No, I don't even think it's that. So I'll just replace them. All right, let's go through some checks here. First thing I want to do is I want to check this power supply. It is supposed to be putting out 12.74 volts. And this supplies the tuners, the tone boards, the phone equalizer board. This supplies all the auxiliary electronics for power, and it runs 12 volts. So I want to check this, make sure it's good. Let's try this now. And I think it's referenced to ground, so let me clip this lead on ground. And we'll clip this one. I believe this one's the output with the two red wires. I'm not sure. And we have 12.5 volts. Power is on right now, by the way. So that's good. So we know that regulator is doing its job. I don't feel it getting warm. What am I on right now anyways? I'm on AM. Okay. Let's turn it to FM. It drops a little bit higher load. 12.53, and I put it on FM, it drops probably 1/10 of a volt. It's not a big deal. It's drawing higher current. Try this. That's auxiliary, so that should be shut off. Tuners are shut off. Phono. So just the phono amplifier is alive right now. When I switch the tuners on, you can see the load. So everything's working good there. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put those fuses back in for the power amplifiers. I'm going to set the bias adjustment. Okay, so the procedure in the manual says to connect a DC voltmeter between Q418 collector and Q420 collector. So what they're doing is they're going across the two collectors of the output transistors, and they're measuring across both emitter or both resistors actually. So they want 35 millivolts plus minus 5 millivolts. So let's connect that up from this collector. The collectors are right on top, so they're easy to get to. And I'll collect this one up. Okay, let's switch it on. Fuses are in. We're getting nothing. Oh, there we go. Took a little while to kick in. So, we want 35, we're at 18. Let me move this out of the way. Trim pot's right here. Probably would have been better if I laid this down. I like putting 10-turn pots in. It makes the adjustment so much easier and smoother. Okay, I'm going to turn this up, down. Actually, I'm going to turn it down a bit because it is going to warm up now that I turned up the bias current. These heat sinks are going to warm up and this is going to change. So we'll do this other side and then we'll come back. This one's at 16 as well. Okay, now next thing I want to do is I want to check on the outputs for any DC. So let's do that next. Let's turn on speakers 1. Our speakers 1 is up here. Okay. So what do we got? Left channel. Let's see what we got in the left channel. Got 8 millivolts, 7 millivolts. That's perfect. And on the right channel, let's see if maybe I can do this. 8 millivolts again. That's perfect. 9. So that's a good sign of a healthy amplifier. All right, so I'll wait about 20 minutes and then I'll redo those adjustments one more time. All right, went back and rebalanced those 2 pots. Now they're trimmed down. They actually crept up to 42 millivolts each. And that's what I said, like once you readjust this, the temperature is going to have to compensate and adjust itself and stabilize. So it's going to change. So you got to go back maybe 10-15 minutes later and try it again and get it bang on. But I'm going through with the tuner right now and it got a number of problems. Problem number 1, I'm getting stereo reception on only the very strongest station I can pick out of the band. And if I go through,
$500 for telling someone you do or don't like their Spotify.
This one's reasonably strong, and I'm not getting any stereo. This one's fairly strong too, and it's no stereo.
On a similar mattress anywhere else?
And I got another problem here. The FM muting's not working, so I'll turn the FM muting button on. Makes no difference. Muting or unmuted, it just picks up the static between the stations. So that's the problem. Problem with the stereo indication. Let me try picking out another station here. Go down the band and see if I can get one. This one's kind of weak. Nothing. That's the end of it. Okay, let's go back up to the top where that strong station is. I just want to look at one thing here. When I tune onto the strong station, there's pretty much the best tuning I can get right now. Right here somewhere. Now you notice it's no stereo. So it sometimes it doesn't come in, sometimes it does. So it's kind of flaky. Another thing I've noticed is even on the strong or the weak stations, the signal meter is twitching all over the place. And I think that might be a problem with maybe one of the semiconductors. Either a chip in the IF strip, or it could be a transistor. I'm not sure. But first thing I want to do is I want to go through and try an alignment on this thing. You know, when I was picking up stereo, it was working okay. It sounded fine. Let's see, now it's picking up stereo. So there's no rhyme or reason as to why sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I think an alignment might peak that up a bit and make it help that work. So I'm going to go through alignments right now. I'm not going to do it on camera. It's kind of involved. There's a number of steps. There's all these, and then where's my last page? There's all these. This is the AM. I'll do the AM as well, but this is all FM alignment. There is no IF cans on this thing. There's one IF can here, but the rest of them are ceramic filters and chips. So I'm hoping I don't have a problem in this area, because I wouldn't be able to find parts for these. All right, another update here on what I've done for the tuner. I went through alignment procedures for AM, and it was peaked to maximum already. I couldn't get any more gains out of an alignment, so it was actually perfectly aligned when I started. I went through the FM alignment, and I was kind of getting the same results. It seemed like it was perfectly aligned. I wasn't getting any gains from going through and doing the motions of an alignment, but it was still struggling to pick up stereo on weaker stations. And I don't know if that is part of the design of this thing, or maybe it's just a temperamental tuner. It seemed like it was, even when I was feeding in a signal, or an antenna signal, it seemed like it was struggling to pick up the signal. So what I did is I removed this tuner block. I actually took it right out of the unit and disassembled it. What I wanted to do was, I was suspect of this transistor, this FET here right at the beginning. This is the RF amplifier, and this is the mixer oscillator. And I thought maybe this FET was damaged or not working, so I took it out and tested it. It was working fine. So I put it all back together. I inspected everything else. I couldn't find anything wrong. I couldn't see anything that was out of the normal. So I put it all back together. I noticed that this AGC line here didn't change at all when I tuned from station to off station. I don't know what's going on with that. So what I did is I started looking here. I did a full recap on the AM FM tuner. It didn't seem to have any effect on that. So I went through and did more aligning, and it seemed to be getting better as I was playing with this discriminator coil. I don't think it was too far off, but it was far off just enough to make it not work its optimum. So another thing I did is I removed two tantalum capacitors, and I replaced them with film capacitors, these two here. And I don't understand why they use tantalum capacitors. They're 0.47 microfarad at 35 volts. I measured the ESR on the tantalums, and they were like 15 ohms. And I measured the ESR on these, it's like around 1 ohm. Don't understand the relationship between tantalums and electrolytics and film capacitors. I don't understand why they picked one over the other. So I changed those. Seems to work okay. The transistors, I pulled quite a few out and tested them out of circuit, just on the odd chance that maybe one of them lost beta. They all came up back good. I noticed that they have actually upgraded the transistors in this thing. From what the service manual says, 2SC 1335s. And I think those are problematic. If I look at my naughty list, 1334s are problematic. 1335s aren't on my list. But what they did is they replaced them all with 2SC 1775s. All these ones are the silver tops. These are all 2SC 1775s. And that's what they did at the factory. That's a factory move. So anyways, I think I'm done with the tuner as far as I'm going to go. The muting issue I had was just my operator error. This button here operates the muting, but it's also adjustable on the back with this muting potentiometer. So you adjust that yourself as the operator. And that's all working. Anything else to say about this tuner? No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to move away from it and start doing power tests and frequency response to see how this thing sounds. All right, we're all wired in for a power test. Let's get this on the way. Turn it on. And we do have this set up for speakers 1 and 2. Okay. So let's turn this up. Got both channels driven into an 8 ohm load, 1000 hertz tone. Why do I only, oh, one of my probes fell off here. Hang on. It's not really a good place to clip onto. I'll see how that works. Alright, so we'll take it up. Clipping. Back it off. Both are clipping equally. A little bit more clipping on the bottom than the tops, but there's no adjustment for that. So I'll take it back right about there. And we are at 19.97 volts RMS. Let's let this cook for a while. So it's going for about 5 minutes now at full power. Didn't skip a beat. This thing's, the heatsink is quite hot, pumping 100 watts into this, 50 per channel, and this is just mildly warm. That's the great thing about these HKs, is they got ample heat sinking for doing the business. Yeah, this thing can go all day at 100 watts. So I'm just going to leave it at that, shut it down, and we'll. I want to do a square wave test here as well. So let's try that next. Okay, so I switch it to square wave. Let's have a look. The probe is falling off again. So looking at the square wave here, it looks like the left channel, the top trace, is struggling a little bit to its top is not as flat as the right channel. I'm wondering what that is from. The left channel. Let me check the inputs to the amplifier just to make sure it's not something with the preamp. So here's feeding out of the preamp into the power amp, and we can see you got the same signal here, and it's weak on the left channel, which is the top trace. So there's something going on within the tone board. I'm just wondering if it's something to do with the tone controls. I'm getting a little distortion from something. That's the bass cut, bass boost, treble cut, treble boost. So you know what it is? I think it's just a little imbalance in that potentiometer, that treble. So when I adjust the treble, maybe it was a little bit off. I turn it up. Seems like one channel compensates a little more than the other. So this is the treble right here. So those two potentiometers on the treble control aren't quite in unison. It's treble cut, treble boost. Yeah, it's all normal. It's doing really good. Square wave, there's no ringing, there's no other nonsense going on, so it's pretty good. Well, that's it for this one. It was turned out really nice. Really cleaned up really well. The top cleaned up pretty good. I missed a spot back here, but big deal. I can go back and do this. But yeah, it really turned out nice. I hope this is a good sounding device, because put a lot of parts into it. Let me show you what we all did. We had 4 filter caps, all the electrolytics, and what else we have? Oh, we have 2 speaker switches. Oops. These are all lamps that were burned out. New sill pads, transistors, a couple of trim pots. So a lot of parts went into this. A lot of work went into this to get it to good sound right. And I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna hook this up on the desk and I'm gonna listen to it for a while. I'm gonna enjoy that. That's gonna be a treat. So that's it for this one. Hope to see you on the next one. Take care and stay well.